The following is a Spirit Street production.
Good week for the Big 12 as far as facing other Power 5 teams. Power 4 teams. There were some good, there were some bad, but overall, I think it was a really good week. We got a shakeup here in Big 12 Insiders, power rankings this week. I know there's going to be some people upset, but this is just the way that it is, people. Sorry. This is the Big 12 Insiders.
Welcome to the Big 12 Insiders, your Big 12 sports show, presented by Synergy Financial Partners. Now let's go to booming North Texas, home of Studio 73. Here's your host, Brien Hanley.
All right, everybody. Welcome back to Big 12 Insiders. It's your man, Big B, Brien Hanley, along with Tim Fitzgerald. Fitz, how are you doing today, my man?
I'm good. I'm working on a short week covering Kansas State and Arizona on Friday night, but it's good to have pseudo Big 12 football arriving. It's not really a conference game, but it still kind of counts in everyone's mind.
Absolutely. Look, power rankings, they're going to move up and down all over the place every single week. This week is no different. We saw a shakeup last week. I think we saw a big shakeup this week. I think they're either going to hate me or they're going to be, you know what? That's about right, Big B. Either way, I love it. As always, remember to like, follow, subscribe, and more importantly, comment. We appreciate all the comments, man. I love going back and forth with you guys. So continue to do that. We are pushing forward, trying to push to get to 2,500 subscribers before the end of the month. So that'll be tough. That'll be tough.
I know.
But we're trying to get there.
So as we started last week, we're going to compare your power rankings to those of the Big 12 publishers now that they're doing their Big 12 poll is what they call it.
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned a shakeup. Well, last week you had more agreements with them than differences. Oh, what a difference a week makes.
Yeah, I can't wait to see it. Because here's the thing. I know everybody's going to think I'm lying. I have not seen what their poll is. I put mine together, and then there's a publisher that puts together some of the polls from everybody, send it to us in a group text that we have or a group chat that we have. So this is the first time that I'm seeing it. So it is what it is. Let's get this thing going, Fitz. So first off, at number 16, I got Cincinnati. Yes, UC fans, you're going to be mad at me. I understand. But you know what? Here's the thing. Don't give up 27-3 leads against Pittsburgh. Just don't do that. And late in the third quarter, you are up. I'm seeing tweets about how many guys are Cincinnati going to be able to get into the game. You're talking about playing third stringers out there. And lo and behold, you get a Scott Satterfield special, and boom, you lose 28-27. I don't want to hear the excuses. I don't want to hear any of it. You're 16. End of story, Fitz. That's it.
Man, they almost deserve it just for how they lost.
Exactly.
Good heavens. I'll just say one word describes that loss. It was pitiful.
Yeah, that one was bad, man. And again, UC fans just deserve better. They just do. They're very knowledgeable fans. They're passionate. They understand football, but I'm sorry, this is what it is, man. And this was a game. I know there was a lot of UC fans that thought, the first 5 to 7 games, we got an opportunity here. Well, this was one of those games where every UC fan was saying they were going to win, and they should have won, and you didn't. So who knows where it goes from here. Hopefully it gets better. So next up, Texas Tech. I could have easily put Texas Tech last. Easily could have put Texas Tech last, and nobody would have even argued. I didn't get, or better yet, Fitz, of all the comments last week, there wasn't a Tech fan that said, man, that's awful low for us. Every one of them that made comments, because a lot of them didn't comment, said, yeah, we should have been last. I wouldn't have been mad if you put us last. And I thought about doing that this week because that was brutal against Washington State. At least you won the game against Abilene Christian, even though you shouldn't have. You go out to Washington State and literally get embarrassed. What the hell is going on in Lubbock, Fitz?
I don't know, but I do appreciate that Tech fans are so realistic. They see it too. A lot of fan bases being in denial. Oh, we're fine. This is all part of the growth. No, this is not part of the plan
No.
Last year was supposed to be spectacular. We know it went off the rails. We all thought this year might be pretty good, and it's off the rails already.
Yeah.
You said it for Cincinnati fans. Tech fans are amazing. They deserve better than this.
Yeah.
And I thought Coach McGuire was the guy to do it, but he's apparently not getting it done. A lot of football to go this season, but boy, that was a lack of heart type of defeat. They just didn't seem invested in beating Washington State. And as we
Yes.
mentioned before the game, Washington State was invested in beating them.
Oh, yeah.
Being invested in any Power 4 opponent and beating them.
Absolutely. And that was the thing. I'm not even saying that Tech had to go up there and win. A tough place to play in Pullman, and they're a pretty good football team up there. But go up there and compete. They didn't compete. And that's the part that Tech fans are so upset about, is that you didn't compete, man. And I don't know. It's not looking good. It's not looking good. You're right, though. Ton of football still left. Ton of football. Speaking of getting better from one week to the next, the Houston Cougars, I got them at 14. Now, a lot of people are going to say, Brian, they should be last. They got embarrassed. Look, they got embarrassed by a UNLV team that just scored 70 points and is about to play Kansas this week to see how good they actually are. So I'm not sure that loss to UNLV is as bad as what people are thinking. But what I do know is that they went to Norman, Oklahoma on Saturday and had an opportunity to win the game at the end. That part I do know. So the turnaround from one week to the next might just be incredible. Maybe it's what you said, Fitz. Maybe it's Willie Fritz said, see, you guys weren't listening. You did it your way, and you got your head beaten in. And now we're going to do it my way, or you're just not even going to be here. And I think that has a lot to do with it, because I think Willie Fritz just said, if you won't do it my way, we'll play with 48 guys. I don't care. But we're going to do it my way. And I think they listened. Much better performance in Norman on Saturday.
Yeah, and if you're an Oklahoma fan, you're looking at your schedule and how daunting it is in the SEC. You just had problems with Houston.
Yeah.
And granted, everyone goes through this once in a while. Other schools have problems in home games, and boy, that doesn't bode well. It doesn't. With that recruiting they supposedly get there, they should be able to line up and just blow Houston off the ball in the current state of U of H football. This should be pure domination, and it wasn't.
No, it wasn't. Like, hats off to Willie Fritz. Hats off to the Houston Cougar program for bouncing back from a week of everybody saying, you know what, this doesn't look any better. This is worse than what it was, and them bouncing back. I don't know how many games that Houston's going to win, but I do know that it looked better from week 1 to week 2, which is literally all you're asking your football team to do. They competed where they didn't compete against UNLV. At number 13, Colorado, I've already got plenty of emails, plenty of messages that people said they should have put Colorado dead last. I think the game kind of looked like a lot of us thought Colorado couldn't block them. They couldn't get a pass rush because, and I keep saying this over and over because I think it's funny. Colorado's allergic to pass rushing, and they are. And the game was over in the first half. I don't want to hear that, well, it looked better in the second half. They didn't score any points. They took their foot off the gas. Nebraska, those guys, they were like, look, they can't compete with us. We're going through the motions. Heck, Matt Rule almost said that at the post-game, when he's being interviewed after the game on the field. He almost said that they put it in neutral against them. So that game was over. Nebraska just whipped them. Colorado's got some issues. The one thing is, at least Coach Prime was a little bit humble in the loss. Before, maybe he's trying to make excuses. That wasn't the case. Shedeur Sanders, on the other hand, I don't know if he didn't throw his offensive line under the bus, but he threw his offensive line under the bus. You can't say that. You just can't.
And he also blamed a young receiver for his blatant mistake on an interception. It's almost like he's never been held accountable before. Yeah. I wonder why that is. And I'm just going to say it. If you haven't followed the Colorado band story and what's going on with the post-touchdown music, you got to go check that out. It's a damn circus, man. It's just, Dion, focus on football, not about playing your son's rap song when he scores or throws a touchdown. Come on, man. Jeez.
I mean, first of all, I saw that story and I thought, if this is actually true, this is unbelievable. But at some point, you're exactly right, Fitz. It's got to be about the football. That star it's wearing off very fast in Colorado. All that. Look, Deion was the best cornerback to ever play football. There's no issue, no question that. But that star is starting to wear off right now because people are tired of seeing the act. They're just like, just go win football games. People aren't even saying that you got to go win 100 games or go undefeated. They're just saying, go win some games. Go compete. Get better from week to week. They didn't get better. They absolutely didn't get better.
No.
12, I got Baylor. Look, I think the game was a lot closer. Now, maybe there's some circumstances with that game with Utah, but the game looked was a lot closer than what I thought it was going to be. It started out, it could have been a rout. Cam Rising goes down. Baylor finds a way to fight back. Baylor, I know Utah's defense that I don't believe lost anybody. Football is a game of attrition anyway, so it is what it is. But here's one thing that we've said this a couple of times. Baylor competed, Fitz. Yeah. They competed. I know that Utah was deflating. The whole the school, the stadium, the team, the whole it seemed like everything just deflated when Cam Rising went out. I don't think it's that serious. We'll see this coming up week. But Baylor fought. I got them at 12. I think this is a good spot for them.
I agree with you 100%. And I can see Baylor sinking to the bottom or lifting up into the upper half of this conference before it's all said and done. Yeah. I'm really curious to see where this season takes the Bears. Yeah. Because they showed some signs in that game.
Mm-hmm.
They got a ways to go, man, but they were playing an awfully good Utah team with or without Cam Rising. That's a good team.
Right.
Naturally, they would prefer to have their 7th-year senior quarterback who is the Yoda of Ute football. So they need him back. Hopefully he is back soon. I don't know if he's going to play this weekend, but he should be back for full-on conference play.
Gotcha. And then last one at number 11 before the break, I got West Virginia. Now, West Virginia fans are going to be screaming and kicking and telling me I don't know ball. I'm an idiot. Here's the thing. It's not so much because West Virginia didn't play anybody. I mean, their game, it was a laughingstock of a football game. It's not what West Virginia did. It's what other teams did besides West Virginia. Keep that in mind. It's not that West Virginia got beat or played bad or anything like that. This is more of other teams did play well against better competition. So you got to be honest about what we're actually seeing from week to week. So before you go, or you can go off the deep end, West Virginia fans. I get it. It's fine. But before you do, maybe take that into account and just understand that, yeah, West Virginia won their football game. They looked dominant. They were supposed to look dominant. How could they be at 11? Because other teams played better and played better competition. That's all I'm saying. Yep. That's all I'm saying. So I'm going to unveil this right now that we got the first 6 right here from 16 to 11. Doesn't look the same as the publishers, Fitz.
No,
it doesn't.
No. It's interesting to me how the bottom is just totally different. The bottom 3 are just kind of put them both in a can and all of them in the can and shook it up.
Right.
Colorado's probably right. Baylor's probably right. West Virginia, I think you've got this right. I personally do. I thought BYU had a really nice win, and they're floating upwards.
Yeah. I mean, I don't see how we'll get to that. We'll get to that here in a minute. The first thing we're going to do, we're going to take a quick break. And on the other side of this, we're going to unveil the next 6 in the Big 12 Insiders Power Rankings. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to the show. Let's head back to the studio.
All right, welcome back to Big 12 Insiders. This is your man, Big B, along with Tim Fitzgerald. So let's keep going here, Fitz. At number 10, I've got the Kansas Jayhawks. Look, that was a bad performance by Kansas at Illinois. Yes, I understand it was on the road. Yes, it was a sold-out crowd. But if you're supposed to be the team that me and a lot of other people thought that you were, that's a football game you have to go win. And look, Illinois is not, and I'm going to repeat this, they are not going to finish in the upper half of the Big Ten this year. That's not going to happen. So for you to go on the road and lose this game, look, I get it. Anybody can lose anywhere, anytime, sort of. But you can't go lose this football game if you're supposed to be that. Now, did this wreck anything that KU has to do as far as the conference? Absolutely not. Could they still get into the college football playoff? Absolutely. But if push comes to shove and it becomes like an at-large type of a thing where they don't win the conference, well, they're going to look back at this game and say, well, you lost to Illinois. And Illinois ended up 5-7. I'm sorry. They got to win this game, and Jalen Daniels didn't look good in this one.
No, the loss is one thing, but Jalen Daniels was not good.
No.
And I think we've been talking him up as much as anyone, and we know his impact if he is good. Well, we saw his impact if he isn't good. 3 picks, fumble on the last play of the game. Blah. I mean, I don't know if he's rusty or if Illinois was doing something that he didn't quite decipher, if the new offensive coordinator and him are out of whack. They better figure that out. And as you mentioned earlier, they have UNLV coming in to their final non-conference game at the soccer stadium in Kansas City, Kansas, as they continue to rebuild their stadium, Children's Mercy Park Stadium. I tell you what, UNLV will show no mercy if they get a chance to beat you. This is life when you actually have a really good football program. Mm-hmm. You get circled on schedules. It's a huge compliment that Illinois pushed this game so big to their fans. They sold out the stadium. They rushed the field. That should be a positive sign for your football program. But now you can't continue to lose these games. You've got to beat UNLV. You just have to.
Absolutely. A lot of people, and myself included, thought KU that the game plan, they should have kept running the football. They were running the football with success against Illinois, and they didn't do it enough. And your quarterback was struggling. Yeah. I could see if your quarterback was hot and you're trying to put the ball in his hands, but he wasn't. And sometimes you've got to help your quarterback by calling something different, allowing the run game to take over, which, again, they were running the football fine. I don't think they ran it enough. So let's move on here. BYU. Look, I was at the game on Friday night, actually, at SMU. Good win for BYU. A lot of people have not picked BYU. They picked them in the bottom half of this conference. I'm going to give them credit. It's not so much that SMU is great. Look, first of all, we've talked about this. If you ask anybody from SMU, they're going to tell you that they're a great football team. So if you need to know about them, just ask. But just watching them on the field, one of the things that I've talked to Mitch Harper, who's a publisher for 24/7 for BYU, he talked about the physicality and how they weren't physical enough for the Big 12 last year. When you watch this football game, BYU was a lot bigger and much more physical than SMU. You could see it. Just watch them on the field. They were the bigger team. Now, SMU had a couple of more athletes than they did, but BYU was a bigger football team, and their defense was playing very good. Now, is that going to translate? We don't know how good SMU is. I don't think they're great. I know people picked them to finish in the middle of the ACC, but number one, it's a good win for BYU, and I don't know if it's a bigger win for the Big 12 conference, but it's a good win for the Big 12 conference.
It was a good win. Go on the road. SMU's now P4. I mean, that counts.
Yeah.
And that really showed what BYU is about this year. They're going to be a little more feisty than what they were last year. But, yeah, surely they are much more physical than a year ago, and that'll translate onto the field in the Big 12 with probably some more wins than we expected.
Absolutely. Moving on, next up, we have got TCU. Again, TCU, I think they played Long Island. I didn't even know Long Island was a university. Mm-hmm. I know where it is. I think in New York, if that's where it is.
Their mascot are the Ice Teas. Yep.
Yeah, it's just, whatever. They played a tough opponent in Stanford the previous week, or at least a Power 4 opponent. I don't know how tough Stanford's actually going to be. Having said all of that, I think this is a good spot for TCU. We didn't learn anything about them this past week, and that's okay. You're going to have those games. You're going to learn. You're not going to learn anything. It's early in the season. Again, they played a Power 4 opponent last week, Fitz, so it is what it is this week. So I think that's basically all we need to say about TCU. There's not a whole lot to put forth there. We'll see more from them. We'll see some more. Now, here's a team at number 7 that's moving up, and I don't know what people are thinking, but I like them. Arizona State. I got Arizona State at number 7. Look, we could say the first week it was against a Wyoming team that lost a lot on defense, new coaching staff, but Arizona State beat the brakes off of them. But okay, fine. Now Mississippi State rolls in. Now, I'm not saying Mississippi State is Georgia or Alabama or Tennessee. I'm not saying that, but they're still an SEC team with a ton of athletes out there that are coached pretty well. I know Jeff Levy's a first-year coach, but he's a pretty good football coach. And Arizona State, this game got close late, but they handled them for 3.5 quarters. They handled Mississippi State. And look, we got to reward teams for playing, number one, good competition and playing well. Game was at Arizona State. I think they said it was like 103 at kickoff. And I'm like, well, it gets pretty hot in Mississippi. So I'm not giving Mississippi State that excuse. I'm just not. I think Arizona State just played well. I think they're better, Fitz. They're better.
I agree. I totally agree. I mean, Arizona State's flying up this chart like they're a Taylor Swift song. I mean, they were near the bottom and now they're crawling into the upper half. And boy, Coach Dillingham's got something going. That was a nice win. Mississippi State's not good, but they're SEC. And I think we hear that the SEC is just far superior than everyone else. We have to count Mississippi State too. They're part of the league, and Arizona State took them to the woodshed.
They did. And that's what the sign of a good team. You know, I know, like I said, I know the game got closer late, but I think that's part of learning how to win. Arizona State had a big lead and just got to learn to just keep your foot on the throttle and just blow them completely out. And maybe they will get there this season, but good win for Arizona State. Got them at 7. Number 6, Arizona. I'm not sure what that was that we saw against Northern Arizona. I'm not sure. The people complained about their defense, and they only gave up 10 points. But the offense, while they ran the ball really well, they couldn't throw it. You know, it just I don't know. I don't know what that was. But in the rankings, you got to pay that price, Fitz, if you're going to come out and play like that. And we're going to drop them down to 6. All of that could change this weekend. Again, maybe they were holding a lot back because they go to Kansas State on Friday night. But for now, we're going to put them at 6.
Both teams won, Kansas State and Arizona. Both teams won ugly. And it's reflected here in your standings. And I agree with this one. I can't explain what Arizona did against Northern Arizona at home. But that happens once in a while. We'll see how both teams look on Friday night. I expect Arizona to be locked in. I expect Kansas State to be locked in. I just think they both got caught peeking down the road and still escaped with wins.
Yes. And that's the thing, is that you got the victory because you don't have to. This college football, anything can happen at any time. And I know that, you know, sometimes when kids aren't focused, we know that disaster can happen. But good for them that it didn't. And number 5, I got UCF. Again, another game that we didn't learn a whole lot about. But again, we're going to learn about both them and TCU this weekend. So it's going to be a very good football game, I believe. That game is in Fort Worth. But I like UCF's team. I may have undersold them a little bit at the beginning of the year, but I like what they're doing. And this is the definition of a team that's we're not playing great competition and we are crushing it. That's what UCF is doing, is that, I get it. These teams that we're playing aren't great, but you know what? We're smashing them. And that's what you're supposed to do. I'm really looking forward to seeing them play TCU this weekend.
Yeah, that's an interesting game because both teams aren't clearly defined at this point.
Right.
And they're going to be better defined after that contest. We'll see what happens, but I like where you put UCF. They're kind of turning sneaky good.
Mm-hmm. People
told us that UCF was going to be good, but everyone says their team is going to be good. But they are. This is a huge. We got some measuring stick games this weekend, and I love it. They're gonna get a better measure of themselves going to TCU, and TCU is going to get a better measurement of itself too.
Absolutely, we're getting some I shouldn't say real football. It's all real football, but we're starting to get some really competitive football.
Yep.
And that's what I like to see, some competitive games. Let's unveil right now what we have so far, 16 through 5. But on the second 5, a little different than, again, what the publishers have.
You've matched them only 3 out of 12 picks so far. That's
Yeah.
that's
It was
how
different last week. We matched them on quite a bit. Not too far off. At West Virginia, I had 11. They have them at 10. They still have Kansas at 8. I don't see how you don't punish Kansas for that loss. TCU right there. They weren't as high on BYU. We are the same with Arizona State. Yeah, and I'm glad to see that. You got to reward Arizona State. You just have to. And they've got UCF and Arizona flip-flopped.
well,
I don't see how you do that. I'll be honest. What you're doing with Arizona after that performance and what we've seen from UCF so far, but it's still early. It's still early. So
volatile.
absolutely. We'll be back, take our last break here, and we will unveil the Final Four. It's definitely going to be a shakeup, people. So we will be right back.
Welcome back to the show. Let's head back to the studio.
All right, welcome back to Big 12 Insiders. Again, your man, Big B, Brien Hanley, along with Tim Fitzgerald. The final 4 teams here in the Big 12 Insiders Power Rankings. So at number 4, I've got Kansas State. Kansas State fans are going to be furious at me. I understand, but after the way that they played, how could you not have them at 4? There could be an argument that you could put them at 5, but they have to be at 4. They just didn't look good on Saturday, Fitz. It just didn't look good. They did win the game. So that's the one thing we got to keep in mind. They won the football game, just didn't look good.
Yep. I don't know what else to say. Of course, I cover K-State, so I've spoken about this a lot. That wasn't a good football team for most of that game. Now, they found a way to win, which Chris Kleiman described as a culture win, and I would tend to agree with that. Dion, that means a team that likes and fights for each other. That's what the culture thing is, in case you didn't know. They got to be better again. Same as Arizona. You pay the price for even winning ugly in this conference because there's teams rising and teams falling, and you better hold on to your spot. But I moved Kansas State down, and when I voted in the poll here, my poll was a little bit different, but yeah, I moved K-State down too. And it's deserved. They got to go prove it.
And the thing about it is, again, we've talked about it. It's week to week. All this could change this week. They play Arizona. Come out and play well, win the game. You'll be right back. Maybe, who knows? Maybe you go to the top. This thing is volatile. It's very volatile. Moving on. Number 3, Oklahoma State. They won. I think Arkansas might be a little bit better than what we anticipated.
Yep.
Fitz. I think Bobby Petrino coming back and running that offense, he had that thing humming. It easily could have been 28-7 at halftime versus 21-7. And Oklahoma State, again, another team, they found a way to win the football game. You talk about fighting back because Arkansas was playing well. They were playing well, going up and down the field against Oklahoma State, but they just kept battling. They kept battling. And then Arkansas would have a turnover. Well, that was ill-timed. But either way, we're back. But what Oklahoma State actually has is Mike Gundy. And when you have a team that's led by Mike Gundy, you're going to continue to keep fighting. He's a good football coach. Whether you like him or you don't like him, what he does is he gets a team to believe in themselves and believe in him and what he's doing, and they just keep battling. I think that's going to end up being a better win than what a lot of people think right now. Get this to week 9, and we're going to look back. Oh, Arkansas is a pretty good football team. I think this is a good win for Oklahoma State.
Again, that's a culture win.
Yeah.
And the home crowd pulling you through. That was impressive how they held on. The culture of the mullet is still strong, and they got the win. And look, you're playing an SEC team. Go to overtime. I don't care. You won. That comeback was impressive. Oklahoma State is definitely climbing.
Yeah, they're climbing. they've still got some stuff to figure out. They got to figure out how to get Ollie Gordon going.
Yeah.
He did nothing in this football game again. So
Weird.
they got to figure that out. But maybe it's teams are just saying, we are not going to let him beat us. I don't care what. Throw for 400 yards against us, but he isn't going to beat us. So, but they were able to come back. Good win for Oklahoma State. Number 2, I think I may have been the only person in the Big 12 that was picking Iowa State to win. And lo and behold, Iowa State goes to Iowa and pulls off an upset. Again, this is another game, Fitz, where you didn't think Iowa State was going to score for a while. They couldn't do anything offensively, but they kept fighting. And I know I just said this about Oklahoma State, but it's the truth. That's kind of the culture in the entire Big 12. Again, culture, Dion, but it's the culture for the entire Big 12. Keep fighting, keep battling. And they did that. And finally, they found a crack in Iowa's defense. Then they found another crack. Then they found another one. And boom, into the game, they end up getting out of there with the victory. This is a huge win, not only for Iowa State, but also for the Big 12 Conference, because unlike maybe some other schools in the Power 4, Iowa, I believe, is going to finish in the upper half of the Big 12. Now, do we think Iowa's great because they can't score any points? No, but they just don't allow other teams to score points either. Now, I'm not confusing Iowa with Ohio State, or anything like that. I'm not saying that, but I think they're still a pretty good football team. It's a good win for Iowa State.
Well, there's no questioning Iowa's defense is big time.
Yeah.
Their offense is little time. But, going into Kinnick and finding a way to win, Iowa State's now done it twice in a row.
Yeah.
Man, that is one of the better wins in the Matt Campbell era, because that has been an ongoing issue. Iowa's, other than these 2 games, has dominated that series, and good win. I predicted Iowa State would be a sleeper, would be a disruptor, and moving up in the conference. So they established themselves probably as one of the leaders, not a disruptor.
Absolutely. Good win. I think it's a very well-deserved ranking, moving them up. I wouldn't say, there's probably some people that say you could have moved them right to the top of this conference if you wanted to after a win like that on the road. Last but not least, we got Utah at number 1. Now, I don't think it's anything serious with Cam Rising, his injury, but the one thing that I do know, and we literally saw it, they are not the same football team without him. They did not look good against Baylor when he went out of the football game. It was deflating, not just for him, the players, the coaches, the stands. Everything just deflated. I'm sure everybody's like, oh my gosh, not again. Well, got to get him back. Again, we don't know how serious it's going to be. I've heard that it's not very serious. We'll dig in a little bit more, but they got to have him because that offense couldn't do anything, Fitz, without him. Now, you get a week of preparation with the backup, maybe things are different. But from what we saw, Utah's got to have Cam Rising.
Yeah. Yeah. He's one of those quarterbacks that's more than a quarterback. He's a significant leader of the team and kind of the spirit and soul of the program right now for Coach Whittingham. And boy, to see him get injured again is just sad. Because it was a freak thing. And I hope he's good to go, because I want to see how good Utah can be going through the season with all their important parts.
Absolutely. Yeah. Never want to see anybody get injured. But again, a guy coming off of you could say almost a career-ending injury, to be able to come back and persevere, I don't know. And then to get hit that way, and get hurt that way, it's just crazy. It's just crazy. But let's reveal our power rankings for the week. The top 4, the publishers, like Iowa State at 4. What are they thinking? Give Iowa State some credit, Fitz. What's going on here? Oklahoma State at 2? Come on, people. What are we doing?
Yeah, it's interesting. Some of the differences. It's like they're not that different, but I feel like they're kind of significant differences in how the publishers voted and how you laid it out. And I'll be honest, I'm a big believer in Iowa State, but I still had them a little bit down the list. Just because, look, I know it's a big win, but I don't think Iowa's that great. But I probably should have ranked them higher now that I look back at it. But Iowa State, K-State, Oklahoma State, put them in a hat, shake it up, and what you get is something different for both, because all three are good programs. All three either need to prove a little bit more to get over Utah or stop being bad at other times. We'll see.
Yeah. I like this. I like the rankings. I like everything about what these teams are doing. Because for the most part, Fitz, these teams at this time of year, they're competing. They're trying to get better week in and week out. And the teams that did not get better, we ranked them at the bottom. You've got to continue to get better every single week. You can't just be a team that doesn't, like, for instance, Houston looked horrible one week, got better. Even though they lost, they got better. Texas Tech, you could say Texas Tech got worse. Even though Abilene Christian was awful, it didn't look like they had any intention, like they had no want to against Washington State. They could have been anywhere else in the world versus at Pullman, Washington, to play that football game the way that they played. And I'm disappointed in it. Having said that, there's a lot more to be done. This is another big week for the Big 12 Conference. These rankings are going to change again next week. So if you don't like them, just make sure you tune in again next week, Fitz, because they're going to be totally different.
I agree. Here we go, folks. It's going to start getting interesting. It's technically the final week of the non-conference schedule, but we've got some interesting things going this weekend, and it's beginning to heat up, Big V. We're about ready for a little Big 12 on Big 12 violence, getting pretty substantial here, and I'm fired up to see this weekend's football games. I have a Saturday off. I'm going to sit on my ass and watch Big 12 football morning, noon, and night. I'm fired up.
Yeah. I can't wait. I mean, look, at my house, I've been doing nothing but football. I started when first week of college football came out, not week 0. So 2 weeks ago, and I've been doing nothing but football since. And I love this time of year. I know a lot of you guys out there love this time of year. Well, it's starting to heat up, people. It's really starting to heat up. So we appreciate everybody being in here. Thank you guys. Again, remember to follow, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and leave those comments. We absolutely appreciate it. We will be back. Big 12 Insiders. Thank you, guys.
This has been a GoPowerCat.com and Spirit Street production. Please support this show by subscribing to this YouTube channel or follow us on your favorite podcast platform.